Bullying is a problem that has always troubled our schools. In an effort to address this issue, the government passed legislation in 1998 making it mandatory for all schools in the UK to have an anti-bullying policy. In this series of Spotlight, we'll be talking to education workers and officials, as well as parents and pupils to get their views. This week we'll be talking to two teaching professionals, one from the UK and the other from the United States. Would you say that the introduction of legislation in 1998 making it compulsory for schools in the UK to implement an anti-bullying policy has been a positive step forward?
I think it's a start.
Who's responsible for drawing up the anti-bullying policy for your school?
All staff, and that's teaching staff as well as non-teaching staff, children, governors.
Could you tell me what sort of expertise do you think is required for formulating an effective anti-bullying policy?
An ability to see other people's viewpoints, a need to be analytical, a need to be able to negotiate, to communicate, and ultimately to hold people accountable.
Do you seek any expert advice as to what your own policy should contain?
There are a range of models out there, one of which is put together by the local education authority, and there are also other bodies, including Childline or whatever, where you could get a model policy from.
How do you monitor the effectiveness?
We monitor it on a number of different levels. We review it every year. We do it through school committee regularly. We monitor it at team level, and we do it informally all the time.
Do you think the overall problem of bullying in schools has got any better or worse since 1998 when the legislation was introduced?
I haven't got any measures of that. I think children and places where children learn always will have incidences, but I think we can reduce those to the minimum and we can respond quicker and faster to any that may arise.
Could you tell me how long you've been a teacher?
I've been a teacher for 11 years. This is my 12th year.
What sort of school do you teach in now?
I teach at a special school for students who've dropped out of high school and returned to school to get their diploma.
Do you think that bullying is a big issue within the American school system?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think possibly many of my students have dropped out of their schools because they were bullied.
We've had legislation here in the UK since 1998 that requires all schools by law to have an anti-bullying policy in place. Do you have anything similar in the United States?
No, not that I'm aware of. I know there are a lot of schools that do have anti-bullying policies. I know that there's a kind of a movement towards that, but I don't think there's any legislation in any of the states that requires schools to have it.
Do you think that the school system in the United States would benefit from having mandatory legislation?
I would love to see that happen because it's a huge pervasive problem throughout all of our schools, and it doesn't feel like very much at all is being done about it.
Do you think that the lack of a legislated systemic anti-bullying policy within the school system in the United States is failing the school children?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've got pockets of things that are working well. There's a school here and a school there that knows how to handle these problems, but they're not enough. It needs to be throughout all schools so that all children get a chance to be educated well and not feel unsafe at their school. But most schools are just not doing well.